Alright everyone, you're here to learn to play for Elise. This will be a very step-by-step guide where I will go through every single aspect of how to practice this. First off, let's start by playing the section we'd like to start off playing. Okay, so that's the first section of three big sections. So this has an A, a B, and an A section. So let's begin. So the very first thing you want to do is find an A and an E with your thumb and your pinky. And if you're new to the piano, we find our way around the piano by the groups of black notes. You have a group of 3 and a group of 2. So at the group of 2, there's a C right in the middle, and it's A, B, C, D, E. So if you can copy my hand, you can also pause the video as you need to. So you take a picture of that. So if you play those 5 notes, you'll have a 5-finger hand position. So now the ring finger, which is the 4th finger, is going to be the swing finger in this. It's going to play 2 different notes. So at the beginning, you have parts. So if we can break this into compartments, you have, that's the first part. And then you have this. So you end up in this position. So you have to do. So if you notice, I'm not using a lot of arm for this, see? So you can fail by using lots of arm. I use lots of finger at the beginning. Right? And the other thing is the most important note is the last note we play. So this is what's called an upbeat. And we land on the A. Okay, so we're just gonna do right hand for now. So the next bit is, so you have to find a C, an E, an A, and a B. Okay, so this is an A minor chord. If I put it this way, for those of you who know chords. Now notice the fingers I use because we want to make sure that we have our hand over, we want to switch hand positions as little as possible. Right, so that's one of the concepts of fingering on the piano. And this is a good piece to learn by rote, because if you learn by rote, you can actually look at your hands and observe your technique. Okay, and you should be developing your reading at the same time. Okay, so we have a C, an E, an A, and a B. That's our second part. Okay, next part, we need to find an E major chord. So it's an E, a G sharp, a B, and then this adds a C to it in the melody. So notice the fingering I'm using here too is 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we have so far is our first thing, right? And which is 2 parts. It's this and this. Then we go here. We find all of these notes. Then we find this. Now it sounds pretty clashy when I play it like that, but so notice how I'm moving. I'm here, and then I'm here. So watch again. I'm Now the next little bit is exactly the same thing, except for we add one E. And now this part is different. So we have an E, a C, and an A, and then there's a B passing tone. So this is an A minor chord. Now notice the fingering I use, 1, 5, 4, 3. Again, I'm finding hand positions. So this whole beginning section, I'm in this position, and then I'm in this position, and then this position, and then this position, and then 1, 5. Okay, so now let's look at the chords for the left hand. Now, one of the nice things about this piece is it sounds complex, but the hands actually never play together. So the left hand is going to play a series of chords. Okay, this is actually an A minor chord with the third taken out. So you have to find A, E, and A. So this is an octave here. And I'm just pulling my fingers out like this just so you can see the notes better, but you're actually going to play like this. Right, so one note at a time. 5, 2, 1. So how do we find A? We find the group of 3, and right here on this side is A. And then the group of 2, E. And then again another A. So octaves are very, very, very common in this piece. So if you can find the octave also and then fill in with the E, that's another easy way. So this is the A minor chord. This is an A minor chord. It's missing the third, but it's implied because of what the right hand plays. Okay, and that we're also in the key of A minor, meaning that the whole piece is based on this scale. So there's an A minor. And then next is an E. So you have an E chord. So you have an E octave, E, E, G sharp. Notice that I'm not trying to do this. I'm playing octaves 5, 1, 2. And then I go back to the first chord. Now believe it or not, that's the whole left hand. So if I play all of my parts together, and I'm going to do it very slowly so you can play along or you can follow along. So notice that thumb and pinky play together here. And then octave, that's your E chord. E chord comes back, and then the first section repeats. So now some general practice tips. People tend to play the beginnings of songs or pieces very, very well because every time they make a mistake, they'll go up to the point where they make a mistake and then they'll go back to the beginning. That is highly inefficient practice. So you'll see people do things like this and then hit a wrong note, and then instead of fixing this and figuring this out, they'll go back to the beginning again. But this never gets fixed. So you have this very strong beginning, and then whatever you go up to a mistake and it gets weaker and weaker and more what people would say choppy or just not smooth, right? So what you need to do is practice each section, right? So until you have this down, you shouldn't go on trying to get this together. You can do it, say, oh, I'll set yourself a little contest. Can I do this 5 times in a row, right? And then do the next one. And then remember that there's this extra E. And then you practice this section, until you get it smoothly. Okay, great. So don't go on to the next section of this video until you have this first part down. Okay, so now let's talk about the right hand for the next part. So we're still in this hand position from the beginning, right? But now we're going to go into C major, right? So you notice that the piece becomes sunnier, right? So what we're going to do is find a B. So it's a B, C, D, and E. We have that same A minor 5-finger hand position. We're going to start with our index finger. And this leaves our thumb free to go down. So we're going to have a whole bunch of cookie cutter things. So what happens is we're going to be playing an interval of a seventh. So that means if you play a G here, the top note's going to be one note down, an F. And then you're going to play an F and an E. Then you're going to play an E and a D. This is a good way to memorize this right away. So 4 step notes right in a row. So notes can either be stepwise, or they can skip, or they can really skip, right? So this is how we remember melodies. So this melody beginning is very easy to remember because it's all steps. Now we have a leap of a seventh, thumb on G, one note down, F. And this is what makes this so expressive, because this seventh is very, very questioning, right? So then you have 3 steps down, then cookie cutter move down 1 note, and do the same pattern. So it's F, E, D, C, and then E, D, C, B. Okay, so play the whole thing. So now let's go over the left hand in this part. So if you remember the A minor position, which was A, E, A, we're going to do that same thing on C. So you have a C octave, and then a G in the middle. So this is a C chord. It just happened to be missing the third. Right? You end up with it in the melody here. So now you have a full C chord. See if I put that E up here. It ends there. Okay, knowing your chords is a great way, first of all, of playing by ear, number 1, and number 2, of memorizing your music right away. Okay, so the next thing is a G chord. We are now in the key of C major. And G is the dominant of C, meaning it's the 5 of C. The 5 is your pivot chord always. Your 5 is your chord that gets you places, right? So this G is a very important chord in C major. And there's a G octave and a B. The D is implied, see? So I'd have the whole chord here, right there. And then back to your first A minor chord. And then you end on an E. Right? So what Beethoven has done, what is called modulation. You started off in A minor and E7, those are your 2 chords, and then C major and G. And then you go back to A minor and E. So those are your basic chords. So middle section, C major, G major, A minor, E. Okay, so these 2 parts go together like this. C, okay, so that's our B section. And then we have a little bridge to get us back into the A section, right? And again, don't practice, try to play through everything. Play each section, right? So try to get this and do it a bunch of times, right? And when you have that down, then you can do, right? And if you hit a wrong note like that, your fingers are going to learn it that way. So you want to be as slow as you can be accurate, right? So this other thing is when I teach students scales, if we could get a very slow steady tempo, eventually they can go very fast, right? So if you can play slowly and steadily, your speed will find you eventually, okay? So now, this middle section, when you have it down, we're going to do the next little bridge to get us back into the first section again. So here's how this works. It's just a bunch of E's. Right? And people have a hard time remembering this, so let's go through it. You're going to use your fifth finger, your pinky, twice. Pinky, pinky. Okay? That's the first step. Pinky, pinky. So now after that, it's all octaves. So it's all going to be 1-5 or 5-1. So 1-5, right? So pinky, pinky, thumb. Right hand takes over where the left hand was going. Then the left hand steals the right hand notes. So again, pinky, pinky, octave. Right hand starts with the left hand finished. Octave. Left hand steals the right hand notes. So all together. Okay, so now this next part, I often hear people play too many or too little. So you're going to do this thing to get like that, you almost as if Beethoven has you not remembering, right? And then you go, oh yeah, it goes like this. Right, so there's this little hesitation part before. So how we do that, it's the same two notes we started the piece on, but it's left, right, and then you start the piece again. So if you think two notes, left, right, and then start the piece again. So then it goes back to the first part, okay? So this is our first section. This is part of a 3-part video series, and I hope this helped you. So we'll see you in the next video where we will go on and do our next section. Thanks for watching.